committed this vicious attack to justice. We quickly learned that the 9/11 attacks were carried out by Al-Qaeda, an organization headed by Osama Bin Laden, which had openly declared war on the United States and was committed to killing innocents in our country and around the globe. And so we went to war against Al-Qaeda to protect our citizens, our friends, and our allies. Over the last 10 years, thanks to the tireless and heroic work of our military and our counterterrorism professionals, we've made great strides in that effort. We've disrupted terrorist attacks and strengthened our homeland defense. In Afghanistan, we removed the Taliban government, which had given bin Laden and Al-Qaeda safe haven and support. And around the globe, we worked with our friends and allies to capture or kill scores of Al-Qaeda terrorists, including several who were a part of the 9/11 plot. Yet, Osama bin Laden avoided capture and escaped across the Afghan border into Pakistan. Meanwhile, Al-Qaeda continued to operate from along that border and operate through its affiliates across the world. And so shortly after taking office, I directed Leon Panetta, the director of the CIA, to make the killing or capture of bin Laden the top priority of our war against Al-Qaeda, even as we continued our broader efforts to disrupt, dismantle, and defeat his network. Then, last August, after years of painstaking work by our intelligence community, I was briefed on a possible lead to bin Laden. It was far from certain, and it took many months to run this thread to ground. I met repeatedly with my national security team as we developed more information about the possibility that we had located bin Laden hiding within a compound deep inside Pakistan. And finally, last week, I determined that we had enough intelligence to take action and authorized an operation to get Osama bin Laden and bring him to justice. Today, at my direction, the United States launched a targeted operation against that compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan. A small team of Americans carried out the operation with extraordinary courage and capability. No Americans were harmed. They took care to avoid civilian casualties. After a firefight, they killed Osama bin Laden and took custody of his body. For over 2 decades, bin Laden has been Al-Qaeda's leader and symbol, and has continued to plot attacks against our country and our friends and allies. The death of bin Laden marks the most significant achievement to date in our nation's effort to defeat Al-Qaeda. Yet his death does not mark the end of our effort. There's no doubt that Al-Qaeda will continue to pursue attacks against us. We must, and we will, remain vigilant at home and abroad. As we do, we must also reaffirm that the United States is not and never will be at war with Islam. I've made clear, just as President Bush did shortly after 9/11, that our war is not against Islam. Bin Laden was not a Muslim leader. He was a mass murderer of Muslims. Indeed, Al-Qaeda has slaughtered scores of Muslims in many countries, including our own. So his demise should be welcomed by all who believe in peace and human dignity. Over the years, I've repeatedly made clear that we would take action within Pakistan if we knew where bin Laden was. That is what we've done. But it's important to note that our counterterrorism cooperation with Pakistan helped lead us to bin Laden and the compound where he was hiding. Indeed, bin Laden had declared war against Pakistan as well and ordered attacks against the Pakistani people. Tonight, I called President Zardari, and my team has also spoken with their Pakistani counterparts. They agree that this is a good and historic day for both of our nations. And going forward, it is essential that Pakistan continue to join us in the fight against Al-Qaeda and its affiliates. The American people did not choose this fight. It came to our shores and started with the senseless slaughter of our citizens. After nearly 10 years of service, struggle, and sacrifice, we know well the costs of war. These efforts weigh on me every time I, as Commander-in-Chief, have to sign a letter to a family that has lost a loved one, or look into the eyes of a service member who's been gravely wounded. So Americans understand the costs of war. Yet, as a country, we will never tolerate our security being threatened, nor stand idly by when our people have been killed. We will be relentless in defense of our citizens and our friends and allies. We will be true to the values that make us who we are. And on nights like this one, we can say to those families who have lost loved ones to al-Qaeda's terror, justice has been done. Tonight, we give thanks to the countless intelligence and counterterrorism professionals who've worked tirelessly to achieve this outcome. The American people do not see their work nor know their names, but tonight they feel the satisfaction of their work and the result of their pursuit of justice. We give thanks for the men who carried out this operation, for they exemplify the professionalism, patriotism, and unparalleled courage of those who serve our country. And they are part of a generation that has borne the heaviest share of the burden since that September day. Finally, let me say to the families who lost loved ones on 9/11 that we have never forgotten your loss, nor wavered in our commitment to see that we do whatever it takes to prevent another attack on our shores. And tonight, let us think back to the sense of unity that prevailed on 9/11. I know that it has at times frayed, yet today's achievement is a testament to the greatness of our country and the determination of the American people. The cause of securing our country is not complete, but tonight we are once again reminded that America can do whatever we set our mind to. That is the story of our history. Whether it's the pursuit of prosperity for our people or the struggle for equality for all our citizens, our commitment to stand up for our values abroad, and our sacrifices to make the world a safer place. Let us remember that we can do these things not just because of wealth or power, but because of who we are. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. May God bless you. And may God bless the United States of America.
President Barack Obama speaking from the East Room of the White House with a huge announcement in the war on terror. Osama Bin Laden has been killed. His body is in U.S. hands. The president says justice has been done. He said after a firefight, Bin Laden was killed. American authorities took his body, and he said this is a big day in the war on terror, perhaps the biggest day in the fight against terror worldwide. CBS News national security correspondent David Martin is at the Pentagon. David, the president outlined some of the events leading up to the capture of Bin Laden. Anything in that description surprise you at all?
Well, we certainly did not know that the first possible lead to Bin Laden's whereabouts came last August. So this is a trail that the CIA and all of U.S. intelligence has been on for many months now. And according to the president, the lead was that he was hiding in a compound deep inside Pakistan. And just last week, the president decided that the intelligence was good enough so that he would authorize an American operation to go in and get Bin Laden. And that operation, he said, happened today in a town called Abbottabad, which is 150 kilometers north of Islamabad, the capital of Pakistan, up in the frontier provinces. And he said it was a small team of Americans. They went in, there was a firefight, they killed Bin Laden, took custody of his body, and the president didn't say this, but they took it back to Afghanistan.
The first question I posed to you tonight when we went on the air about an hour ago was how big a deal is this, David? After hearing the president now, what's your answer? How big a deal is this?
Well, let's look at it from the president's point of view. He said that when he took office, the first thing he told his CIA director, Leon Panetta, was that he wanted getting Bin Laden to be the #1 priority in the war against al-Qaeda, the #1 priority. So all this talk about, well, he's just an icon, is just talk, because the action was to make it the #1 priority. And after all that time, a lead finally popped up last August, and it finally firmed up last week. and he finally was taken down just today.
David Martin at the Pentagon, thank you so much. Let's go back to the White House now, and our chief White House correspondent, Chip Reid. Chip, kind of give us an idea of the buzz there at this point after the president has spoken.
Well, let me give you an idea of the buzz out front of the White House, and I think we have some pictures we can look at. There are several hundred people out there who have been chanting USA, USA, and I think that's reflective of the mood inside the White House. And we also just got a statement from President George W. Bush, former President George W. Bush. Here is what he said. Earlier this evening, President Obama called to inform me that American forces killed Osama Bin Laden, the leader of the al-Qaeda network that attacked America on September 11th, 2001. I congratulated him and the men and women of our military and intelligence communities who devoted their lives to this mission. They have our everlasting gratitude. This momentous achievement marks a victory for America, for people who seek peace around the world, and for all those who lost loved ones on September 11th, 2001. The fight against terror goes on, but tonight America has sent an unmistakable message. No matter how long it takes, justice will be done. And I think that reflects what our national security analyst Juan Zarate was saying a little while ago. This wasn't something that happened overnight. This is something that really took 10 years to happen. Now, the president did say that he advised and instructed Leon Panetta, the CIA director, when he was first sworn into office in President Obama, that he wanted to make capturing or killing Osama bin Laden his top priority. But certainly the structure of the operation to make this happen was something that was initially put in place under President Bush. It was a long-term effort and certainly much to the relief and some would say the joy of people here in the White House and Americans across the country. Osama bin Laden has been killed by a small team of U.S. military and perhaps intelligence operatives. It's not clear exactly who was involved there in Pakistan, and the body is now in the custody of the United States. Russ?
Chip Reid at the White House, thank you very much. I want to read a statement now from Gordon Felt. He's the president of the families of Flight 93, the flight that went down in Pennsylvania on September 11th. This is important news for us and for the world. It cannot ease our pain or bring back our loved ones. It does bring a measure of comfort that the mastermind of the September 11th tragedy and the face of global terror can no longer spread his evil. This from Gordon Felt, the president of the families of Flight 93. Bob Orr, our terrorism expert and correspondent, is our Washington bureau right now. Bob, in terms of U.S. national security, what impact will this have, do you think?
Well, it's going to have a notable impact, Russ, and I think they're still trying to figure that out at the highest levels of the U.S. government as to what might be coming next. Pat Milton, one of our reporters, tells us that a source has told her there's nothing to suggest any kind of retaliation plot that's in the works, no intelligence in the pipeline that anything is afoot. But out of an abundance of caution, the U.S. is raising security in a number of areas around the country in terms of putting the Joint Terrorism Task Forces on higher alert. I don't want to misspeak here. We're not going to a higher level anywhere, but we're telling the JTTFs, the Joint Terrorism Task Forces, to basically keep your eyes open. We're told that the FBI right now is working on a bulletin. We believe it will be more of a routine nature to say, look, bin Laden is dead. There could be some retaliation. We have to be vigilant. So this will move us to a somewhat higher posture in terms of security, but we have to say at this point there is no credible intelligence that we know of that anything is in the offing. Now, that said, going back to last fall, there was a plot that was fairly well advanced, we're told, against a number of places in Europe, and since then we know that the al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, the group based in Yemen, has actively been planning to try to hit the United States and Western interests. So this, in the radical Islamic world, it's going to possibly give them some, some fire to try to do something about it. But our folks are going to have to be on watch. Right now, we don't know of anything that might be coming, but needless to say, this does change the stakes somewhat, Russ.
Bob Orr in Washington, thank you very much. Our chief national correspondent, Byron Pitts, has been talking to families who lost loved ones on 9/11. Byron, good evening to you.
Hi, Russ.
What are you hearing from those folks?
We talked to John Cartier from Jackson Heights, New York. His brother was killed. He was in Tower 2. He was a 26-year-old electrician. We called him tonight, and he said that he feels like, quote, I feel like doing a dance. His only hope was that it was our people, he said, Americans, who took down Osama bin Laden. So we know he was watching watching when President Obama spoke, so we know that that news, that it was Americans who took out Osama bin Laden, will be good news for him. He was emotional on the phone. He was crying. For him, this is a bittersweet night. The night that a number of the families had hoped for a very long time. The kind of celebrating we saw outside the White House tonight, rest assured.